Okay, so we are seeing a bit of life in the altcoin market. Now it's not just we got to that point where the portfolio is looking so sad we could only eat bread. Now we can eat bread and butter, right? Which is very cool. But ultimately, things are waking up. Things are really starting to look nicely on the higher time frames, which is very important, right? We're starting to see high time frame breakouts. And it's nice to see tokens we have been waiting for a while to wake up, starting to wake up, right? Render, right? Something I've been waiting for a long time. We're starting to see some strong strength coming in. We've got Pump Fund, we've got 𝗬𝗏 waking up. Now, I do think there is a small pause where we're at right now. Then I think there is a reload, and I do think there is another leg incoming on the altcoins. So today is very much a altcoin show. I want to go through tons of altcoins with you guys, looking at where are they at right now, which ones are breaking the biggest structures, where are possibly more buy zones for these tokens, and where can the next leg take us. We are actually 2 short squeezes away from recovering a lot of the damage that was done over the last couple of weeks, but there is a roadmap to do so. So I want to go through all of these shiny alts that are moving now, okay, and ultimately looking where they're at right now and where is the next opportunity. Bitcoin's hovering in the mid 90,000s. What do we need to do to get into the 100,000s? And if that happens, what happens to altcoins? So guys, missed you all. It's been a total of 24 hours. Now it's time for us to be a little bit degen, right? Go through the altcoins and let's get a nice understanding of where the market's at. Let's go.
I try and help everyone in my space, and this is what I get. I try and fight the devils, but inside I'm just like 𝗦𝗏𝗡𝗏. Welcome to Sheldon Show.
Yes, squad, what's happening? Brand new channel, hit the subscribe button, and guys, like it up. I'm back in action. Get everyone here. If you know anyone that watches the shows, tell them to jump on. It's a fresh year. It's a new start. And we started to see some good strength, which is really good. Now, again, long-term portfolio, time to slowly recover, which is nice. But I'm also looking at using this volatility to really get the trading rocking nice and strong. So in this show, I'm going to go through high time frames to kind of look at long-term. Where is our portfolio looking? What's looking with these altcoins? Is this a time to offload some of the altcoins, right? These are things we're going to talk about. And then I'm going to zoom in and looking at trading opportunities. I do think that where we're at right now, and specifically getting another pullback into hot zones, for me, the bots come back into thought process again, right? Getting my Pionex bots back in the market and starting to go a little bit more aggressive on those. And definitely when it comes to my spot and low leverage positions, I'm looking at adding a bit more on the next pullback. But the important thing is to remember that red is when we build, right? Everything's green and shiny now. This is where you kind of run your wins. You ride your wins, right? But you always look at the opportunity the other side of where am I going to buy more, right? Where am I going to open up? And we want to get used to buying the other side. Now, I got something cool for the show. Now, I actually got something where I can start drawing for you guys, which pumps me up, okay? But ultimately, markets have been basically doing things like this, right? Let's see if this thing works. A little bit of a delay. So we'll see, okay? But ultimately, let's jump into the chart here. So what we are seeing is drop, 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 drop. And we are starting to see, let's just get this. There we go. Okay. Drop, 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 drop. Depression phase. And now we're starting to get into disbelief, right? So we always go through the market cycle. Okay. A lot of the times the question was, where was the bottom? We had to see slowdown and we had to start to see a little bit of a disbelief. Okay, this is getting steps closer to possibly bottom on altcoins possibly being in, right? But we need to now see the next phase, which is the hope phase. But ultimately, we had the big drop-off. This creates the panic, the denial, the capitulation, okay? Then we have a bounce, a little bit of hope, right? That comes in, and then it's fake. And this is what creates the angry phase, right? I'm done. I'm over the stuff. Smash the laptop. Get out of there, right? And I was very much there in December. Completely just annoyed and upset where the market was at. And then where we get to the hardest phase, right, of a specific cycle, right, is where we go into the depression, where the market just does this. And if you just go through psychologically what has happened, a lot of people were obviously interested when the markets were going up before this, okay? This created obviously a bit of panic, but a denial, okay? But where it really damages everyone is when they hold the positions, right, or held their losses, and then this market just does this. And that's what really just gets people to kind of quit, right? And we got to remember that this will ultimately always be the best entries within the market. It's the hardest time to buy, right? The key here is to not blow yourself up. So the mistakes that I made in this time over here is I kind of held trades a little bit too long, got stopped out a lot, right? And I should have just slowed it down a little bit more and get ready for the bigger move, okay? And just track that, because what's important is to track that move. Now, again, if we just look on the left-hand side here, where did the pump start? On that break, right? But what we needed to see was, okay, angry phase, depression phase. How do we know when we're going to start recovering? We need to see a disbelief, right? We need to see a phase where a pump comes. Not many are going to trust it just yet, okay? But ultimately, the next phase is what gets people to start getting hope. So we need to see a bit of life. Okay, and that's what we're starting to see. This is known as the disbelief pump. Now, it's important not to just go all in here just yet, because we need to see the next phase come after this. So what we're looking at now is we are looking at from here, push up, then we're looking for the rejection. This is what really creates that disbelief, because right now, how many will kind of trust? Right? Some will, it's getting interesting now, seeing a couple of double-digit gains on a short time frame, but ultimately, how many is going to trust it? So it's not really believable, right? And when this dip starts to happen over here, it kind of adds to that, and it says, you know what, I'm right. You see, we're starting to reject again, we're starting to go down again. And then when things really start to change, right, is when the hope pump comes next, right? Where from here, we're looking at holding an important level, okay? And from there, hope. Now, what that does is if you look at the downside here, and let's say this downside was minus 60%, right? Where things from the top start to rally to the downside, okay? Now we're over here, we've only recovered 20, 30% of the possible move. So it's not just, you know, a fireworks right now. But when you go into the hope phase and we start pushing up, and all of a sudden, when we're down 60%, let's say on long-term positions, and now we're only down 10, 20%, right? That's when a lot of interest starts to come back within the market, okay? And the problem with that, not the problem, but this is why we got to kind of be focused. This, for me, is more important than this entry over here, because this one's really hard to get, right? It's really hard to guess the exact bottom, to catch the exact breakout, right? And even myself didn't manage to catch all the position breakouts that I wanted over here. But the opportunity we do not want to miss is the disbelief retest, this one over here, right? This, for me, is the big one, because when things start to shift up, you got to remember that a lot of tokens, let's say with $2 here, okay, and drop to 50 cents here, by the time they're back over here, it's already 200 to 300% in gains to this area over here, right? Therefore, if you are buying a lot later over here, you got to remember that that current move, the token's already up to 300% from that move. So if you are now forced, and let's just redraw this all up here again. Oh, let me not actually do that and remove everything. Let me just do this rather. There we go. Okay, that means if we're caught a little bit later on trying to find entries here, okay, this is where it gets a little bit more tricky, because any buy here, don't be surprised if it does go into a 20% loss at any point, right? So the key here is to not chase this too much, but is to really get ready for this section over here. Okay, and to make sure that when we broke out, did we really start to break the important structures, right? This is the important thing. Make sure that we are out, we've broken through, and the retest keeping us in rhythm and routine to keep making sure that we are buying red and not chasing green. So for me, on times like this, trust me, I want to FOMO, I want to go sell the car, I want to do whatever I can right now. That's my brain's telling me. Right? But it's important for me to just, okay, you didn't catch this pump, this pump, this pump, let it ride, okay, and really pay attention where you're going to buy it on the retest and on the strong levels, right? That is where you should pay your attention to. Anything you buy now at any point, unless it's for a super high time frame, you can see it's breaking. You don't care about the 100% because you know high time frame, you're still buying this thing 80% off, okay? I don't want to get caught too much into that, because let's say now I enter something and we do have this pullback. I don't want to go into this loss mentality in a market that's going directly up. So it means the patience comes in a little bit more, okay? But the timing becomes very powerful. Then we get to a certain part of the market, specifically if we're looking to catch the hope stage to the upside, right? Is if we work really hard on the actual entries and the discipline and the patience to get these entries, we can make our money back a lot easier without doing anything, right? I always said that one really good entry, okay, is worth many multiple trades, right? Because one entry can just make you all the money back and make things go a lot easier than getting in and out, right? So for me, I'm at that stage of the market where trading, there's phases, good phases of trading, bad phases of trading, doesn't matter. But I'm at that point now where I need my wealth, my value of what I'm worth. I need that to go up, right? And that's why I'm paying attention to where we're at. So again, just an example here on 𝗬𝗏, right? A lot of people are probably very interested to, oh, stuff is happening right now. We got to realize that this is a disbelief pump, right? Don't be surprised from here. Don't be surprised. That's what happens, right? So the problem with FOMOing over here is when you go into that loss. And again, let's just put this over here, where it's a 15-20% loss. That's going to get really hard to hold the position, specifically from the trauma, right? We like these we like these people that had bad childhoods, right? We got that trauma, right? It's there, right? It's there sitting. All these different types of things are there, and we don't want to trigger that too much over here. Okay, so it's important to know that things are looking good. Okay, and a disbelief pump is starting to happen. Okay, but the next entries are the very much most important. Now, it will happen in two ways. The first one is the market is getting to a point now where it's getting ready to pull back, right? It's getting ready to pull back. It will probably be quickly, okay? It won't be like the slow. I think when we are in these red emotions, the pullbacks tend to happen slower, right? So here, look how they just happen slowly. But when you are in the more upside, right, where you start to go into the green emotions, they tend to be quicker, right? Quicker and then start to move up, okay? That's why for me, a limit order strategy is quite important, of looking at good levels, putting limit orders in and just being patient, right? If I need to have my dopamine rush for the day, I take a little bit of money and I trade, right? That will keep the dopamine going, okay? But ultimately, when it comes to these type of things, limit orders are important. Now, there's two ways we're looking at this disbelief, okay? Because we got to remember something, okay? We have two plays that are about to happen over the next couple of weeks, okay? We either have the lower high, and this is full bear market, okay? So again, this happens. We go here, lower high, come down, and then reset a little bit later. Okay, that's the one scenario. Okay, or the second scenario is the alt run we've been waiting for, right? Then we go into bear. Okay, so it's important now for me to focus on the buys, and then straight after that, start looking at what are these key levels here. Because if this disbelief, it depends, and this is what we'll soon see, right? If the disbelief, let's say this scenario is playing out over here, right? Then for me, the disbelief will go from here, then here. Moves will start getting a lot bigger, right? Where if it's the lower high scenario, okay, then it's something possibly like this. Okay, so what I'm trying to say here is you can see that there is a very strong trend. And again, I'm using 𝗬𝗏 as an example because these are, you're looking for recipes in this game, right? All altcoins have their own cycles, but the recipe will stay the same. Every single one of these altcoins started ripping when they started breaking a certain trend, right? Every single one of them. So the recipe is what you truly focus on over here. Now, going back over here. Okay, so again, the first one, second one. Now, let's speak about the significance of this trend that we are at. Guys, this trend break over here, right, is an important one that I will flip incredibly bullish again, right? Because after we get through here, you've got to remember that this big drop that came out of nowhere, prices came down to fill that. Okay, let's go down memory lane a little bit. This wiped markets. A lot of liquidations, a lot of things happened, right? But all it did was wipe tons of liquidations and some buying happened. We saw a bounce, okay, but not a crazy amount of buys happen. So what happens is price then comes down again, and those that were buying here all accumulate in this area over here. All right, this is why the big wallets, not even just the big wallets, the OGs in the space, right, get really rich when markets go like this, because all they're doing is buying, right? I speak to Ron, he's buying, he's accumulating. I speak to all wealthy people in my life that I've met. They are all accumulating crypto right now, right? They don't care about, oh, it's red and stuff like that. They're like, oh, buy, right? Do what I can to accumulate. Okay, they're not upset that they lost money. It doesn't work like that within their brains. Okay, so the fact that price came down and filled up makes sense, and we're starting to see the market cycle play out. Okay, so as it stands right now, if I just look at 𝗬𝗎 itself, I'm sitting with limit orders over here. That's the first step, right? Limit orders. If I'm launching bots, I'm launching a bot, okay, here, launching the grid, come all the way down in these areas to buy. So I would only buy a small percentage right now, 10%, but I wanted to buy all the way down over here. So I'm really paying attention to not chasing the pump, but paying attention to the buys over here. And this is long-term spot. This is your true wealth positions we're looking at right now. Things that are not super high leverage you can get liquidated on, right? This is money where you're sitting at a thing, because again, 𝗬𝗎 from here, let's say now comes down to these areas over here, and then it does recover, right? You're looking at hundreds of percents to the upside. It's a lot of big opportunity when it comes to higher time frame moves right now, okay? And all of these great blue chip tokens all being down 70-something%. So let's go through the plays here on Bitcoin. Bitcoin is right now sitting flat into resistance, okay? So what I look to do now is it's quite clear that we could see that Bitcoin is actually a little bit behind the altcoins right now. Altcoins are leading Bitcoin at this point, and that's obviously because Bitcoin dominance is starting to look a little bit in favor, okay, of the altcoins. And I just want to show you guys this over here. Remember, this is still one of my plays that I'm paying attention to. Rarely start getting a weak Bitcoin dominance, okay? This doesn't mean Bitcoin won't be bullish anymore. It does mean, though, we're getting near the Bitcoin highs. That 126,000, we might go a little bit higher, we might go a little bit lower. I do think Bitcoin will start making its way back up there, but the real move is going to be within the altcoins, specifically if this play comes in over here. And you got to remember that there's up to 20% of all the money in Bitcoin to be distributed into the altcoins, right? Which is a lot of money, okay? And again, why I think it will come, or why I still think that the alt season will be a little bit easier, is right now, blue chips. Best altcoins in each category, 2 or 3 of them. I truly think it's an easy way long-term to make money. There's millions of tokens in the market right now. Choose the top 3 in each narrative, right? Everything is on discount. Everything is cheap, right? And if this plays out over here, there's a lot of money to be distributed to those specific blue chips, okay? So going in over here, let's go to Bitcoin. Bitcoin, a little bit behind the alts, but we are about to get ready for, at any point, the disbelief pump. Now, this might be the disbelief, okay? If so, we're waiting for the hope pump to come, okay? And that's when we start to really push up, okay? And what we can see on this specific chart here is we broke the trend, good sign, okay? The depression phase, we did put in a higher high, good sign, okay? And what we can see after this is we are now sitting flat into resistance. So I don't want to get too trapped over here, okay, knowing that there's resistance. I'm paying attention to where are the supports to buy. But the next thing above that is we look at the short squeeze. Where's the next resistances after this? Okay, and we can see that there's a big area over here just after, which means that when we officially get through this area here, there is a big short squeeze incoming. Okay, and a lot of people have been shorting the markets, and this will obviously go and chase down the short liquidity, tons of liquidations to the other side, okay? But this is the move that I'm paying attention to. And what it basically teaches you within trading, with investing, is you don't have to catch the first pump, right? You need to catch the second pump. The second one, you make nearly just as much, maybe not as much, but you make a lot more, you make cash, but you are waiting for the market to prove that it is strong, okay, before it goes into parabolic stage. We also know that if we zoom in here, or we just look at the normal movement of a market, and you can see it here, is the tokens start off slow and they speed up. right? And for me, once we get through disbelief, it really starts to speed up. And that's what creates the hope, the excitement, views go up, people start coming back into crypto. And that's what starts to create the move up again, or the acceleration on the market moving to the upside. Also remember that this market has gone down for 3 to 4 months, slowly, aggressively, all different ways. Don't be surprised if it goes up for 3 months. Right? That's what I'm saying. Start getting your head around that pullbacks may be quicker. They won't last too long. They might be a little bit violent on the first push, okay? But you need to have those limit orders in and get the buys, okay? Because after that, at any point, things can recover quick, okay? Things are starting to shift. If you stay in the red mentality when the market is moving to the green mentality, you are a step behind. And that's where the market's going to kind of throw you around. But if you can start admitting to say, okay, you know what? I will flip into this mindset when this is proven or this is done. Cool. Have your levels of when to do so. But at some point, you have to have the trigger. You have to change the mentality and you have to shift to the other side. So you can be a part of a market that has green mentality and you have green mentality, right? And as it's getting more green, then you start shifting into a red mentality, right? These type of things. Amazing. Okay, so my plays on Bitcoin look something like this. Okay, we are into resistance. We did go a little bit higher, which I think is the perfect time to trap. Okay, but my 2 plays are like this. Right now, for me, where supports are sitting, okay, and where I'd be looking for Bitcoin to test at any point, we have 92 and we have 90,000. Okay, I'm always going to expect this one first. This is a big shift that I have made mentally. Okay, is there's 2 areas where Bitcoin can bounce. I'm always going to say, okay, I have $20,000. I'm going to put 14K over here, and I'm going to put 6K over here, okay? And if it comes down and tags 6K and then does this, no problem. I will then start injecting this money that didn't get bought in over there. But I need to be sure. I need to be sure, and I want to continue in the mindset of buying specials within this market and getting the best buys. If I work harder and be a bit more patient for the best buys, later on, I don't have to work really hard to make a lot of money, right? And that's the important thing. So jumping in and back over here, there's 2 levels here when it comes to Bitcoin for me. The first place, I do think we make our way down. I think it's something like this. And then I do think we start rallying to the upside, okay? If the market is very bullish, okay, it will drop here and then start to rip up over here. Nonetheless, we have resistance. The only thing that makes me turn away my limit orders or any systems over here that I've set, okay, is if we smash through here. Then I'll be changing the thesis to looking to load on that retest over there. Right now, this is what I'm paying attention to. But the exciting part is we are breaking trends. We are looking nice and strong, right? So let's get through here. Altcoins, same thing. If we're going to look at where altcoins are right now, let's jump in over here. Okay, let's get through. Okay, so let's go through altcoins. Altcoins broke through those trends. There's the breakout, right? We are sitting with 2 resistances right now. We're sitting with the resistance we are hitting now. Okay, this is why I'm saying a little bit of caution. And then we have 1 over here. So again, altcoins are getting ready for a short squeeze, right? They're getting ready for an injection and speed up at any point. Now I have my 2 resistances. Now what I look at is my support, right? What level did we just break through? What's an important level, right? I use closing candles. That is the important level over here. Boom. So for me, as it stands, plan A is this. Okay, plan B is this. Now, the important thing here is to also know that it's not a massive pullback, right? It's not the most humongous pullback or anything like that, okay? It is a pullback into the trends that we just broke, supports. So this is where I'd be sitting with limit orders. So let's start piling through a bunch of altcoins, right? And start going through where levels to accumulate, where levels to be interested at, things like that. If we look at ETH, flat into resistance, right? Straight into resistance over here, okay? What will change? That's what I need to happen for me to say, I want to kind of buy ETH at these levels. As it stands right now, right, the levels that I want to look to accumulate is around the areas of 3,100 to the 3,000. So 3,000 to 3,100. That's where limit orders and ranges for me will be setting. After that, what I'm then looking for is a push up into the areas of close to $4,000. So I do think there's a 30 to a 40% move incoming on ETH, specifically on these entries over here, which is around $3,100. That is my brain. That's where I'm thinking about bots. Remember, guys, you want bots? Shout out to Pinex. They have brought a great special in a market where it's been crappy and we've lost money. $1,000 bonus, register and deposit to claim. So if you're looking for bots, here we go. You don't have to do leverage bots. You can make it 0 leverage. You can also take it up to 5x leverage. Your choice. Okay, but anything that can keep you from manually making mistakes, okay, I like very much. Okay, now let's go into things like Solana, right? So let's go Sol over here and let's look at what Sol is looking to do. So Sol broke this trend. Boom, that's why it's starting to move. Now, the exciting thing about Solana is it has not even entered the pump yet. Sol has done nothing, right? It's moved a little bit from the bottoms. It's moved maybe 10, 15%. Hasn't done what Sui's done or Render's done. That's coming, right? That's the next move. Okay, so it's got this resistance ahead of it over here. Let's make this nice and red. Okay, and then after that, we have $200. Right, so there is a coiling up move on Sol that is looking to income of up to 40%. Right? This is if we're not going all-time highs. Remember, if we are going into bear after these pumps, we're still going to try get up there, but the lower high will be the signal, right? That is where things will kind of shift from there. Okay, so this is the opportunity that I'm seeing. Now, what I like about Sol is I don't even think Sol has fully gone into disbelief pump just yet. Okay, so where my buy zones are sitting, so again, Sol I think is a little bit earlier than the rest of the alts, but my buys are basically sitting in the early 130s. If you're an investor, you don't mind that little couple percent, cool. Right? For me, I just want to get into mentality of buying the red, sticking to the structures, these type of things. Okay, so my plays here on Sol, setting some limit orders around the 130 to the 133, 134, a little bit lower down as well, 127 for some cheeky buys. Okay, and after that, I am looking for a nice strong push to the upside of up to $200. Right? Let's go through AVAX. Okay, AVAX also a little behind on the pump. Okay, doesn't mean they're weak or anything. It means that they're next, right? But I do again think if I look at where we are right now, there is quite a bit of resistance ahead, okay? And there is support below. Okay, so again, if you don't mind these little areas here for spots and stuff, this is your buy zones, right? But what we're looking for here is my zones are sitting anywhere between the 13.3 to around the 13.8 type of areas. But what excites me here is I actually zoomed out and I looked at where is AVAX higher time frame. And if I look at these key trends that we broke down and I see the market cycle, everything, it shows me where it's getting ready to go up again, right? And we could see that AVAX is getting ready at any point for a push up to around the 23 to the 25 mark, right? So that for me is a good trade, good opportunity that I'm looking for, okay? So again, zooming in over here, what I'm looking for, let's go here, okay, is a push down and a climb up to these areas over here. We'll then soon see if that's the lower high or we break it. All right, nonetheless, good opportunities. And as you can see, as we go a little bit more into the altcoins over Bitcoin and ETH, you can see that the percentages, that's 100% move, right? The percentages get bigger, okay? And remember, when it comes down to your money, right, or comes down to position sizes, things like that, as you start to go into more volatile, so that 100% sounds amazing, and there's 30% on ETH, okay? Just remember the downside works the same way, right? So there's 3 times more size to the upside, there's 3 times more size to the downside too. So if I had 10K, okay, and let's say I just wanted ETH and AVAX as an example, I'm probably putting around 6.5, right, in ETH, and I'm putting around 3.5 in AVAX, right? That's the thing. So again, it's because the percentages are bigger, you still got to really think about, you know, risk management when it comes to money allocation and things like that. Okay, so there is AVAX. Let's go down the list. We're going to go through many alts here, but I do want to go through a couple that I have not spoken on for a while. A token that's quite behind is Cardano. So Cardano, again, my buys are sitting the late 30 cents, right? The 37, 38, 39 cents. Okay, but this is a token to not sit and say, oh, it's behind, is to say, hey, I can get this earlier, specifically if you like Cardano, right? So again, a pullback here, and after that, I do see a move up to the 60, 70 cent mark, right? Good move incoming on Cardano. When it comes to Dogecoin, one of the leaders of the pumps right now, specifically over the Cardano's, AVAX, and things like that. Okay, let's see where this is at. Ooh, also flat into resistance. So same thing here. Drop down to the areas around in the 14 cents marks, then get ready for the push up to the 20s. All right, nice strong move incoming over there. Let's speak around Render. Right, a token we've been waiting and waiting and waiting. Right, this token, if it gets to this next resistance, it ain't too far from recovering very quickly. Okay, so if I zoom out over here, put the big trends in, realize that it's not there just yet. Okay, it needs to be on this side of the trend line. So it's coming into resistance, okay? But you need to pay attention to the volume that's coming in. There's definitely real buying happening on Render right now, right? And that should be interesting. There we go. Look at the volume, right? We haven't seen volume like this in a while. When last did we see volume like this? In this phase, when they were accumulating, right? So remember, people that really appreciate the project, believe in it, they will buy these areas here. They'll accumulate slowly, and when we're ready, we'll start to see some rally up, and this is when retail starts to get within tokens or trades or any of these type of things. Okay, so going back over here, Render, I'm not chasing shiny objects, okay, but I'm very intrigued of what it's doing. Okay, so something like this, it's moving more aggressive, which means the pullback can also be more aggressive too. So something like Render, I'm getting ready to buy these areas over here, which is around the early $2, $2.10, $2.15, right? That's what I'm looking at. For now, yes, it's going to be a bit more upside. It's just not worth the risk. So something like this for me is here, here, and then we start pushing to the $4 mark, right? We've got Pump Fund, which is looking good. This, I think, is a good opportunity. One of the newer narratives of the market, right? This one has broken out. The retests are sitting at the early 0.02. 0.002 10 to like 2.3, right? You could see it here. So the main thing is go find this on the charts. You'll see the numbers exact, but you're looking for the retest. Broke out, come back down, get the retest from here. I am looking at up to a, wow, it's a good percentage, right? Up to a 77. It could even be up to 100, 200% move, right? Let's go down to 𝗬𝗏. We spoke about 𝗬𝗏 actually. Let's go down to Zcash. One token that I'm not mega bullish on anymore for now, right? This thing's giving me vibes of something like this, right? Kind of push up, okay? Nonetheless, those, let's say it's been accumulating, Zcash, you have a choice here, right? It could decide to pop off and go, okay? But if I just look at this here, this token looks like it kind of needs to form a very big flag or something. Right, so it looks at this point for me that put this bottom trend in it. You've been holding Zcash. It was a really good runner a few weeks ago. Right, if it starts to lose this, I do think there is a possible drop incoming. For those who are investing and we lose this trend, you do have an opportunity to maybe take some profits, or secondly, farm some tokens. Take a little bit off the market on the break of the trend, pop in over here. So why am I showing you Zcash right now? It's just know that every token has its own cycle, right? Does not mean they ain't going to pump in this. They're just in different stages and different levels of their cycle, right? So just because some alts are looking strong right now doesn't mean Zcash is going to go parabolic, right? Just keep that in mind. What will change my mind, okay, is us really breaking through. That will change my mind. For now, okay, it's something where it's like, I'm not putting too much attention here. I'm paying attention to the alts that are really starting to break through the major areas. Now, let's go through more tokens within the market, ones that are looking nice and strong. So remember, your memes are waking up. The important thing is to not really chase them. You can see that they're starting to reject a little bit now. Here's Bonk as an example. Just look for where they broke out, where's the retests. Just because they moved more to the upside does mean that you will also see a little bit more moves to the downside. So something like this, I won't be surprised if it comes down over here and then goes up again, right? And that is 20% to the downside. Okay, so for me, limit orders, okay, what are you looking for? you're looking for when a token has been moving down and then breaks out. You're looking for where was the nearest resistance that it broke out, right? Sometimes you got ones, you got two that were close. These now is your support levels. That is where you want to set your limit orders. Okay, amazing. So again, if I look at going back to bonk here, where was the last big level it broke out? There. So where's my limit orders? Sitting in these areas over here. Right, teaching me to accumulate and pay attention to red side. Let's jump back in over here. One token I do want to speak around is Algorand. Another token that is showing some strength. Let's go in here. Okay, so I love it when I find tokens like this. Many, many, many trends. Right, now again, I can take this trend. I can take another trend. I'm looking for a trend at the most touches. Right, so if I take this one over here, there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 touch trend line. Nice trend line. Right, I look at where it's just broken out. Okay, this area over here, and it's telling me that this token ain't very much likely going to pull back a lot. Okay, but this is where I want to buy it. Okay, from here, what am I looking at a move? I'm looking at from here to the next major resistances up over here. That's up to a 50% move. Okay, so something like this, at any point today, if it starts to drop into this 13-cent kind of areas, okay, something that I want to build specifically spots, specifically maybe some bots, okay, and things like that in those areas over there. Right, amazing. Now, let's go down and look at the rest. What is Fetch doing? I think Fetch is also making, where are my charts that I prepped today? Okay, let's go into Fetch. Another token. So, again, they're all in their own cycles right now. So if I look at something like this, it's there, okay? But something like this, pull back here, then up to the upside, okay? Something like this is exciting. We are seeing some strength and real volume come through, okay? But the break of this trend is where I really get interested. Some tokens on the other side of the trend, some are reaching into the trends now. But the same rules apply. I'd rather let this pump more to be certain. But as it stands right now, that is where I want to buy it. All right, but after that, there's some money to be made, right? I'm looking up to a 60-cent move, up to a 100% move. Who knows? This might be the bottom. We might go to all-time highs on alts. The only reason I'm still saying that, we are still sitting close to 60% on the Bitcoin dominance, right? We mustn't forget that. Right? That money can still at any point be distributed into the altcoins. Okay, let's see. What else have we not seen for a while? And we'll speak about NEAR protocol. I know someone asked around NEAR yesterday. Let's go through NEAR protocol. Let's see where NEAR is at. Okay, let's get NEAR going. All right. Okay, so NEAR, let's zoom out here. Obviously at incredible. You know, guys, if you zoom out and you think the project's good and it's a blue chip, right, and you zoom out and they're back at 2022, 2023 numbers, right, they're investment entries. They're probably very, very, very good investment entries, right? Specifically something where you want to buy and hold for a couple months, couple of years, things like that, and you like the token. Right, just remember, we are back at the lows of the cycle, right? So that's very good. When I zoom in here, I look at opportunities. I do think this is a good opportunity. And if I look at where's my buy zones, it is just broken out over here, right? So that is where buy zones are sitting over here. Again, if you don't care about the 3, 4, 5%, it's only spots on this. These are buy zones, right? These are times to just accumulate a bit, keep some cash, right? But this is where you accumulate, okay? Let's go and look at some more tokens. Let's jump through. I'm going to look at a couple ones we haven't spoken about for a while. Let's look at Casper. Let's look at VeChain. All right, let's have a look. Let's look at BNB. Okay, cool. What else are we going to look at? Let's see here. Let's look at Filecoin. Okay, let's look at Theta. It's sad because these tokens, they didn't get their chance in the cycle yet. Still think they're coming, but they haven't gotten their chance yet, you know. The Thetas, the VETs, all these type of things. Okay, so here is, let's look at Casper. Let's see where we are at here at the moment. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, still a very strong resistance ahead. So buys are sitting over here. Okay, but again, when it gets on this side, it will start accelerating. Okay, so again, something like this. So if I had 10K to buy Casper, $500, $100, doesn't matter. But I'd probably look to buy 50% in this green box and 50% of the break of the trend. Right, that's being a little bit more conservative. Okay, but I am seeing a push up anywhere to the 9 cents to the 10-cent mark once we are done with the next pullback. If I look at VeChain, same thing. VeChain has actually broken out. So I'm not chasing. There's a lot of resistance ahead. So something like this is what I'd be paying attention to, right? BNB. Just remember, BNB is still higher than a lot of the altcoin markets, right? But it's a lot cheaper than what it was, which is good. So let's go into BNB here. I do think it's an investment token, this. We have just broken out over here. So again, as it stands, not much, but it looks like the buys are late 800s to accumulate. Filecoin, this thing had that crazy run. I caught that run, which was very nice. Let's see. I'm not too interested in trading this right now, but there is some investment opportunities. Right, if you're a believer, have a look. Again, I don't think it'll get anywhere near those prices again of where it was, but don't be surprised if it does get to the top of the range, which it has done multiple times over the last few years. And if we just look at percentages here, right, of what that looks like, it's up to a couple of 100%. It's a little bit higher risk, less money of my capital to put in. Theta is at 30 cents. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Again, trading, not really interested. Investing, if I have 10K, putting in $200 here, because a push from here to here, 600%. I'm going to buy a little bit more of this today. Again, oh, I see more percentages, put more money. No, just put something, 1%, 2%, cool. Right, it's diversifying within the market. Okay, guys, I will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow is... we should have trade setups. We should have trades that we can actually take together, right? I'm taking some Bitfunder trades. Okay, if you guys want a Bitfunder account, link below in the descriptions. Load them up now. There's no time. So let's say tomorrow we find entries on the Bitfunders. We take the trade together, and by the end of the show, we might even be past the level, right? And then you unlock the real cash, and then we get going. I've tested it. I've brought money out. I've spent money. I'm shooting videos on it right now, giving money to communities. It works. It works. Right? What I paid, how it worked, it all worked, which is incredible. So let's get some setups tomorrow. Let's get some trades going. I will be trading some leverage trades. I'm not trading much right now as it stands, right? I'm waiting for some more pullbacks, and let's get into trading motion. But we also got to realize market's showing strength, high time frame. So you got to look at the other part of the portfolio now and start making some decisions. Remember, we have a free sniper club for you guys. Join the community today. Link below in the description. Okay? A lot of fun things happening. I got some traders around the world coming in. A lot of live tradings coming to play, which is very cool. Get equipped. Get your head nice and strong. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye-bye.